In their eyes, I was stupid, yet I married the capital's crown prince. On our wedding night, Robert Cooper used me as the wager in a street race, and lost me. He looked down at me from above, his smile teasing and cruel. Sleep with her, so what? With her IQ, she probably can't even tell who her husband is. And the lean, strong mechanic merely lifted an eyebrow, then carried me away with one arm. Later, I clutched the mechanic's shirt hem and called him my husband. Robert went mad. My name is Evelyn. I wasn't foolish. Before everything happened, I was perfectly normal. Ever since I can remember, my mother worked as a maid for the Cooper family. When I was 13, the Cooper family's young master, Robert Cooper, was in a car accident. My mother died on the spot protecting him. Grandpa Cooper was a devout Buddhist. Afterward, he specifically invited a master to calculate Robert's fate. The master studied the birth chart in silence for a long time, then said, flatly, only 3 words, a debt must be repaid. I didn't understand what repaying a debt of gratitude meant. I only sat to the side, shaking the fortune stick cylinder and playing with it. Robert shoved me, impatient. You're so loud. I fell to the ground, and a single stick tumbled out of the bamboo tube. A young man passing by helped me up. His pale fingertips pinched the guanine lot, 13. What does 13 mean? I asked him. He was very handsome, handsomer than Robert. I stared at him blankly and even forgot to cry. His eyes were gentle. He carefully smoothed the wrinkles in my skirt. Next time we meet, I'll interpret it for you. Why do we have to wait until next time? I puffed out my cheeks and pouted, unwilling to let it go. But before he could answer, Robert dragged me away. Robert glared at me fiercely, his tone harsh. Don't talk to strangers. Can't you remember? Robert, you were worried about me. I shrank my neck and, a beat late, smiled. How self-important. Robert snorted and walked off on his own. I stood there frozen, eyes stinging red, at a loss. My fate was strangely compatible with Robert's, and on top of that, my mother had saved his life. The first thing Grandpa Cooper did after coming down from the mountain was to arrange my engagement to Robert. Grandpa Cooper treated me very well. He told me that from then on, Robert would be my support. In that cramped basement, my mother had once held me just as gently and said, Evelyn, Mommy will always be your support. So I thought support must be a very good word. After that, I clung to Robert with a silly grin, all the time. But he seemed to hate me. He always sneered coldly, why didn't you die too? I tilted my head, suddenly panicked for no reason. Die, what does that mean? It means disappearing forever, like your mom. That was the first time I learned my mother was dead. She wasn't coming back. I don't know where the strength came from, but I went crazy, pounding at Robert like a madwoman. Liar. You're a liar. Give Mommy back to me. Get lost, you idiot. Robert looked at me with the same disgust as always. Enraged, he shoved me hard. I stumbled and fell into the enormous pool behind me, almost drowning. That night, Robert knelt in the ancestral hall all night long. When I woke up, he was already on a plane to England. For the next 10 years, we never saw each other again. Over those years, with treatment, I recovered some of my intelligence. But compared to ordinary people, I was still slow. Hey, are you done yet? Robert leaned lazily against the doorframe, frowning in irritation. My thoughts snapped back. A beat late, I stood. Done. I'm done. Robert's face was expressionless as he seized my wrist and warned into my ear, don't talk later. If you embarrass me again, you're dead. The suffocating memory of drowning surged up. My body trembled on instinct. Okay. Today was the day I married Robert. Grandpa Cooper said I should smile. But I didn't know why, I couldn't. Robert wasn't smiling either, and I didn't know why. The car sped faster and faster. The roar of the sports car scared me so much I didn't dare move. The air was so silent it made my heart race. After hesitating again and again, I chose to break the silence. Robert, I forgive you. What? Robert shot me a baffled glance, then stomped the accelerator again as if to vent his anger. The sudden push pinned my breath in my chest. I gripped the door handle tightly and whispered, timidly, for pushing me into the water. I'm not angry anymore. Oh? Then I should thank you for being so magnanimous. Robert looked like he'd heard a joke, his smile sharp with mockery. And no need to thank me. I waved my hand seriously, and my smile finally loosened a little. Grandpa Cooper said Robert was immature. If I could be more tolerant, he would slowly learn to correct his mistakes. It seemed Grandpa Cooper hadn't lied to me. Robert's eyes widened in surprise, then he laughed even louder. I couldn't understand why, but my instincts told me that laughter held no kindness. Flustered, I pressed my lips together and lowered my head. It seemed like I'd made things worse again. When we reached the mountaintop, a crowd of men and women gathered around, laughing and jeering. President Cooper Jr. is truly blessed, marrying such a beautiful bride. Ha! No matter how pretty she is, she's still an idiot. Is she really an idiot? The crowd burst into loud laughter. Many of them stared at me like an animal in a zoo, even waving fingers in front of my face. How many is this? Ha 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 ha, she can't even answer. She really is an idiot. What was your old man thinking, forcing you to marry that thing? I shrank into myself uneasily and looked at Robert with frightened eyes. I don't like them. I want to go home. Shut up. All of you. I don't know what line hit Robert's nerve, but he barked the order with a cold face. Everyone fell quiet, forcing smiles as they hurriedly changed the subject. Let's play something big today, make sure President Cooper Jr. has a good time. Yeah, President Cooper Jr. tell us what we should bet. How about we bet this idiot, ha 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 ha, perfect, it'll solve your problem for you. Robert tilted his head, lit a cigarette, stayed silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled. Fine. We'll bet this idiot. I gripped the seam of my pants, trying hard to understand their words. Robert, are they calling me an idiot? What does bet mean? Go stand over there. Don't move. Robert pointed casually to the roadside, his tone dismissive. The naked stares made me uncomfortable, but I didn't dare ask again. Grandpa Cooper said that as long as I behaved, Robert would treat me well. The mountain road was full of potholes. In high heels I walked slowly, but I still stumbled. Careful. I looked up, and met a man's pitch-black eyes. He wore a white tank top, showing strong, firm arms. Smooth muscle lines ran beneath his skin, faint veins rose along them. Oh, Yen, your idiot bride really makes people want to feel sorry for her. I'm dying. She trips just walking. Not gonna lie, your idiot is gorgeous. Whoever wins today is making a profit, ha 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 ha. Robert's face darkened. His eyes narrowed. Who is he? Oh, a pretty skilled mechanic. Forgot who brought him up. I think his name is Julian Cooper. His technique is good. Last time on the mountain pass, he even overtook me. Robert gave a mocking laugh, idly twirling his car keys. Mechanic. Want to race? Bet what? Julian glanced back at me, a faint, almost there smile curling at the corner of his mouth. If you win, you can choose, the car, or her. If you lose, you kneel and call me Dad. Fine. Let's play. Julian chuckled lazily, strode forward on long legs, and opened the car door first. I stood under a tree, watching the two cars circle again and again, faster and faster. Then came a shriek of brakes, and the crowd erupted in cries. Robert's face was livid. He slammed his helmet down. A bet's a bet. Julian didn't take the keys Robert held out. He grinned, roguish and sharp. I choose her. Robert didn't speak for a long time. He only stared at him. What, you can't afford to lose. Julian lifted his chin slightly, the line of his throat clean and beautiful. The air tightened, the tension suddenly razor-thin. How could I? But she clings to me. She won't want to go with you. Robert shrugged as if it didn't matter, his expression easing a little. This is a society ruled by law. You can't force her, can you? Is that so? Julian laughed low, then opened his palm toward me, his voice gentle. Evelyn. Do you want to come with me? After a brief daze, I walked toward Robert. My phone screen was lit, glaringly bright in the dark. On it was a children's Chinese dictionary app, see? I told you. Robert, you lied to me again. It was the first time I cut him off, and the first time I didn't call him anything affectionate. You didn't know, did you? I can look words up. The meaning of wager is, if you lose it, you don't have it anymore. Robert, you don't want me again. A fine, dense ache spread through my chest. In my mind flashed Robert's countless cold stares. The wedding had barely ended when Robert couldn't wait to leave. Grandpa Cooper, leaning on his cane, had scolded him for a long time before Robert reluctantly agreed to take me along. Maybe Grandpa Cooper had lied too. Robert would never be good to me. My voice was very, very soft, scattered by the broken wind of the night. I rubbed my reddened eyes and reached for Julian's hand. I won't pay attention to him anymore. I'm going with you. I'll take you to eat candy, okay? Julian crouched and looked into my eyes seriously, coaxing me in a soft voice. Robert suddenly grabbed my shoulder, his voice harsh and violent. Evelyn, you wouldn't dare. Ignoring the shock in Robert's eyes, I stubbornly pried his fingers open, one by one. You hurt me again. You're bad. Evelyn, you're really going with him? Robert asked in disbelief, reaching to grab me again. The big hand at my waist tightened abruptly. Julian pulled me back 2 steps into his arms. He weighed the metal wrench in his hand, his voice lazy yet arrogant. Touch her again. Go on, try it. Robert's eyes reddened with fury. He swung his fist and smashed it straight into Julian's face. Julian didn't dodge. He only pulled me into his arms, and took the punch head on. Robert, you hit him. Hitting people is wrong. That's something I learned a long time ago. So I glared at Robert, indignant, and couldn't help hating him 3 points more. Robert's friends hurried over to restrain him and break it up, shocked beyond belief. Yenji, you really fell for this idiot. If you care that much, just swallow your pride. Julian isn't unreasonable. Why'd you have to throw hands? Making trouble over an idiot isn't worth it. Robert panted hard, gradually calming down. He flicked at his hem, his smile full of disdain. Come on. How could I possibly like her? I just don't want to lose her and have trouble explaining it to the old man when I get back. A few girls watching nearby looked uneasy and whispered. It's so late, a man and a woman alone, won't something happen? She's still your wife. What if she gets slept with? Yeah, this isn't safe. Hearing that, Robert looked down at me from above, his tone teasing. Sleep with her if you want. With her IQ, she probably can't even tell who her husband is. As if to prove he'd never cared about me, Robert enunciated every word with deliberate clarity. Emotion surged. My whole body began to shake, completely out of my control. Their malice was so blatant that even an idiot like me could feel the humiliation, perfectly and painfully. Julian lowered his eyes and lifted a hand to cover my ears. He bent down and murmured beside my ear, Evelyn, losers only see the wager. But what winners want is always something precious. What did that mean? My nose stung. Sniffling, I looked at him. Julian laughed softly, and like he was coaxing a child, he explained with patient care. I'm saying you're the treasure I've been longing for. Longing, what does that mean? I blinked, confused. Julian smiled, indulgent and helpless, his voice light. Treasure means, I like you very, very much. I asked about longing. But what I want you to remember is treasure. Evelyn is treasure. Right now, you're my treasure, and mine alone. That's all you need to remember. Treasure? My thoughts were successfully led astray by Julian. In an instant, I forgot what I'd wanted to ask and repeated his word, dazed. After my mother died, no one had ever affirmed my worth again. All anyone ever expected of me was not to become a burden. But Julian told me solemnly that I, too, could be a treasure. Of course. Julian's gaze was deep and focused, his irises so dark that the reflection in his eyes looked startlingly clear. Feeling his stare, my heartbeat sped up for a brief moment. Julian took off his jacket and wrapped it around my waist, then bent down and lifted me with one arm. With his other hand, he deftly slipped off my high heels. His long fingers pinched the heel, easy and unbothered. Stop dragging your feet and being an eyesore. Take her and go. Robert raked a hand through his hair in agitation and slammed the car door hard. Julian met his glare like a provocation, then slowly, unhurriedly, curled his lips into a smile. Gladly. Julian's place was small, but comfortable and clean. The warm yellow light made me feel oddly at ease. Compared to the vast, icy Cooper mansion, I liked it here more. Does it still hurt? Julian carefully set me on the bed, then dropped to one knee and massaged my swollen heel. Embarrassed, I curled my toes and shook my head. I prepared new toiletries and a change of clothes for you. Pink. He sensed my awkwardness at once, let go, and helped me into a pair of slippers. He slid open the wardrobe. The entire wall was filled with pink, light pink, deep pink, every shade in between. A few white tank tops were squeezed into a corner, making it look as if Julian were the one who'd only just arrived. My eyes lit up. I arched my brows in delight, trotting to the closet and holding dresses up to my body one by one. Pink. Every pink dress in North City is here. The 3 rooms next door are piled full too, but I haven't had time to sort them yet. Tomorrow I'll have someone tidy everything up, then you can pick slowly. For some reason, looking at Julian's indulgent gaze made me want to cry. Robert hated pink. Or maybe he just hated me. He always looked at me with contempt and snapped, "How old are you, still liking pink every single day? Do you really think you're some Barbie princess? Childish. Tacky. Throw it out." But Barbie was my favorite cartoon. That was the first time I didn't follow Robert's order. Even though I didn't throw them out, the next day my only 2 pink skirts were gone anyway. Along with them, my treasured Barbie dolls. I asked my mother why. My mother froze for a long time. In the end, she could only smile awkwardly, unable to say a word. I guessed Robert must have stolen my pink. But I didn't understand. If he didn't like pink, why steal mine? So I went and asked Robert, stubbornly. As expected, he called me stupid again. So I stopped asking, and I never had pink again. I sniffled, my voice tinged with a sob. It's my greatest honor. Julian bent down to meet my eyes levelly and performed a gentleman's bow. It's an honor to serve Princess Evelyn. But I'm not a princess. Then take a guess, why do you think I knew you liked pink? Why? Right, how had I not noticed that? It was our first meeting, yet Julian seemed to know me inside out. Because I could tell at a glance that Evelyn is a princess. And Barbie princesses all like pink. But Robert said I'm not. He's blind. Julian spoke with perfect seriousness and rubbed the top of my head. He's blind. I'm blind for a long time. Pretty severe, too. Julian furrowed his brows as if making a diagnosis, solemn as can be. Then what do we do? No cure. Oh. No cure. I nodded, copying Julian's expression. He chuckled low and pinched the soft flesh of my cheek. Evelyn, don't tempt me. Light spilled into his eyes like scattered stars. I'm not. I blinked innocently and puckered my lips. On my conscience, I didn't even know what tempt meant. You're not. Julian's smile deepened. He lifted his brow slightly. He was so strange. It was like no matter what I said, he would never contradict me. Julian took me to an auction. I craned my neck curiously, looking around the hall. Julian, why is everyone raising their hands? Whoever raises their hand most eagerly gets what's up there. Julian lowered his head and toyed with my fingers, wrapping them in his palm as if he couldn't bear to let go. His sharp profile was half submerged in the darkness, his lines crisp, so handsome it didn't feel real. He deliberately lowered his voice. Warm breath brushed my ear, ticklish. My eyes brightened. I tentatively lifted my paddle. Like this? That's right. Evelyn learned so fast. Praised, I sat up straighter, confidence soaring, and began raising my paddle like crazy. And so, half an hour later, I was hugging an armful of pink diamonds of every kind, satisfied to the bone. Julian, why are they all looking at me? They're jealous of you. Hee hee. I'm fast at raising my hand, right? They're all slower than me. I'm telling you, I'm this serious in class too, so I always get to answer questions first. Our Evelyn is amazing. Getting praised again, I lifted my chin proudly and decided to keep it up. The manager beside us hesitated. You'd like to continue? I looked at Julian in confusion. He smiled, straightened, and handed me his own paddle. In case one isn't enough for you. Huh? Isn't that the mechanic? Robert arrived late. When he passed me, he halted. How did you even get in? Can you afford anything you're buying? Julian never once looked up at him. His lashes, dark as raven feathers, hid his eyes, cool, careless. It didn't look like he couldn't speak. It looked like he couldn't be bothered. Being ignored, Robert, who was always the center of attention, raised his voice without meaning to, anger flaring into embarrassment. Poor trash. Stay around an idiot too long and you've forgotten how to talk. The fingers holding my wrist tightened for a heartbeat. Julian's gaze darkened. He was smiling, yet it sent a chill down my spine. Idiot? What's wrong? Or should I say, retard, is that more accurate? Realizing he'd found Julian's sore spot, Robert grew even more smug. But his careless, one after another idiot, made me burn with shame. My mood sank slowly. My face went pale. Robert was always like this, saying the cruelest things to me with a joking tone, and never caring who heard. That mouth of yours? You can live without it. Julian's voice was light, almost casual, yet it made my heart shiver. The moment he finished speaking, I could feel the temperature around us drop. Julian lifted his hand slightly. The venue's security immediately stepped forward, seized Robert, and dragged him toward the exit. Robert's eyes flew wide. He struggled wildly. Are you insane? Do you know who I am? People around us threw curious, probing looks. I tugged Julian's sleeve. Don't fight, okay? Why? I'm worried, they'll retaliate against you. All my life, Robert had always been the one bullying others. Since when had he ever suffered this kind of humiliation? Robert suddenly laughed, his heart oddly going soft. Fine. No fighting. Freed from the restraint, Robert ripped off his wrinkled suit jacket and threw it to the ground, his eyes grim. Evelyn, you actually took his side. You insulted him first. I scrunched my face and glared at him fiercely. Choked by my retort, Robert softened his tone. Evelyn, come back with me. Don't stay with some shady nobody. I won't. You're the shady one. Grandpa said we're going home for dinner tonight, and you have to be there. Robert was always impatient with me. But you were the one who didn't want me first. This was just a game. Are you really going to leave Grandpa for him? I hated Robert. But Grandpa Cooper was very good to me. His words tangled me up, and for a moment I didn't know how to answer. My emotions were being pulled in opposite directions, split apart, aching and raw. In the silence of our standoff, a huge wave of reporters suddenly surged into the hall. Blinding flashes strobed, countless microphones shoved straight into my face. Miss Evelyn, we've heard you quietly married the Cooper family's young master, is that true? Rumor has it you and the Cooper family's young master are on bad terms, and on your wedding night you ran off with a strange man. Is that true? You just argued with the Cooper family's young master, was it because of the gentleman beside you? Someone in the crowd even shouted maliciously, laughing loud on purpose, Miss Garcia, we heard you have a severe intellectual disability. What tricks did you use to marry into a rich family? Share with us. The dense white light made me dizzy. All the noise peeled away in an instant, leaving only a roaring ring in my ears. I clutched my head, panicking. Julian moved first, pulling me behind him. He spread an arm to block the reporters rushing forward. The crowd was chaotic. I was shoved and jostled until I could barely stand. In the confusion, Robert grabbed my wrist and forced me toward the exit. My vision blurred. I watched Julian's back recede farther and farther away, but I had no strength to resist. Robert hauled me into the car, floored the gas, and slammed an angry fist into the steering wheel. Damn it, this was definitely set up by a competitor. The reflexive dizziness still hadn't faded. I gasped, struggling for air. I want to go back. Lacking any sense of safety, I protested with reddened eyes. My heart was in chaos. A thread of helpless weakness wrapped tighter and tighter around me. The Cooper family's stock is crashing. You have to come back with me to clarify this. I don't want to. You don't get to choose. I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call Julian, but Robert snatched it away and tossed it out the window. Do you even know what that man is? He's just a mechanic, but he sat in the front row at the auction, and he could order security to drag me out. For all you know, he's part of the trap our enemies set. You're the only one stupid enough to have your guard down. The street race thing, I didn't think it through. From now on, be careful. We'll live properly, okay? My thoughts were a mess, like a train screaming through a tunnel, leaving only crashing, directionless thunder behind. I wanted to argue so badly, but I couldn't form complete sentences. It was like my throat was clogged. Only broken, trembling whimpers spilled out. I had never hated being an idiot more than I did right then. An idiot who, the moment she panicked, couldn't even speak clearly. My voice shaking, I forced myself to ask, Robert, have I ever not been good? Everyone told me, you have to be good. But I've already tried so hard. How good do I have to be to stop being blamed? How good do I have to be to deserve being loved? Robert's expression stiffened. He fell silent for a long time before saying awkwardly, anyway, from now on, we'll be fine. I curled my legs up, hugging my knees. Robert, you're bad. Cold wind poured in. I lifted my head. Staring at the figure in the rearview mirror, I realized my face was streaked with tears. And suddenly I missed Julian even more. If he were here, he would hug me, and somehow produce the milk candy I loved most. When we stepped into the Cooper family home, I actually felt a flicker of daze. You wretched thing. Grandpa Cooper raised his cane and struck Robert hard across the back. Grandpa, I know I was wrong. You'd better truly know it. His emotions surged. Grandpa Cooper broke into a harsh cough he couldn't stop. Tonight I invited every important figure in North City. You will take good care of Evelyn and prove to the media that those scandals are pure fabrication. And also, your uncle has finally agreed to show his face. With him here, the stock price might have a chance to rebound. Grandpa Cooper patted the back of my hand guiltily. Evelyn, Grandpa knows you've suffered. Later, Grandpa will make him apologize to you in front of everyone. I lowered my head and smiled obediently, as I always did. Uncle? Robert blurted out, startled. The Cooper family's network was complicated, its interests intertwined like roots. To protect the only heir, Grandpa Cooper had hidden his name long ago and sent him overseas to be raised and trained. But the outside world always said the Cooper family's mysterious figure despised business politics, was obsessed with racing, and refused to accept the family's arrangement to enter commerce. In recent years, there were also rumors that this heir had suddenly decided to return, and in one fell swoop secured 3 major bids for the Cooper family, firmly taking the position of the true power behind the scenes. The room went quiet for a beat. Following everyone's gaze, I lifted my head. Julian descended the spiral staircase, his eyes fixed straight on me. A tailored suit fit him perfectly, outlining his tall, straight frame. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, those long, powerful legs were lethal. His cuffs were rolled up, revealing a section of strong forearm. Pale blue veins traced upward beneath the skin. Why aren't you greeting your uncle? Grandpa Cooper, furious at his lack of backbone, raised a hand and rapped Robert on the head. Uncle. Robert was so shocked he couldn't speak, frozen in place. Julian completely ignored the hand Robert held out. He slid an arm around my waist and asked softly, hungry? I nodded happily and nuzzled into his chest like a kitten. I promised to take you for cheesecake after the auction. Who would have thought some blind fool would come and ruin it? All around us, people sucked in cold breaths. Robert's face turned black as soot. I'll cook you noodles when we get back. Julian reached into his suit pocket, pulled out a white rabbit milk candy, and carefully unwrapped it before feeding it to my lips. Yay! I obediently sucked on it and smiled at him. Whispers rose in waves. Grandpa Cooper looked like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Everyone, allow me to introduce her. This is my wife, Evelyn. Julian's voice rang out, crisp and clear. The hall fell dead silent. Then, flattery erupted from every side. The adults who used to look at me coldly now wore fawning smiles. Everyone here was shrewd, they only cared about Lee and never bothered with right or wrong. Grandpa Cooper shot Julian a sharp look and scolded under his breath, "This is nonsense. Who doesn't know Evelyn is Robert's wife? We're not legally registered." Julian's tone was casual. His eyes never left me as he wiped away the trace of candy at the corner of my mouth. "Besides, if you're broke, then work harder. Chasing someone? May the best man win. Robert's useless, why are you angry at me?" There was no such thing as a chance encounter. Every heartbeat was premeditated. That street race on the mountaintop, Julian, a Taekwondo black belt, deliberately took that punch because he wanted the little girl to feel sorry for him. That wall of pink dresses, custom-made pieces, recreated one-to-one based on the cartoon. Even the warm-toned decor of the apartment was Julian's scheme. The psychologist said a small, warm environment was more likely to awaken a sense of belonging deep in someone's heart. So Julian, used to living in a luxury high-rise, moved overnight. "Grandpa, don't yell at Julian. He treats me very well." Without thinking, I laced my fingers with Julian's, then added seriously after a pause, "Very, very well." Grandpa Cooper's fingers trembled. In the end, he could only sigh in helpless resignation. The atmosphere turned strange. The onlookers, tactful, all pulled back to give space. Robert ground his teeth. The hand holding his wineglass bulged with veins from the force of his grip. "No wonder you weren't in a hurry to chase her. You were waiting here to slap me in the face." "I'm here for 2 reasons, Julian said coolly. "For Evelyn, and for the stock. You're not worth my effort. Don't flatter yourself. The family won't allow you to marry an idiot." "That's only true for you." Julian swept him a faint glance. He chuckled, like he was mocking Robert's ignorance and incompetence. "If I leave the Cooper family, I'm still Julian. But if the Cooper family loses me, it becomes a joke. I am capital itself. Clean. Arrogant. If anyone else said it, it would sound ridiculous. But Julian delivered it in the most matter-of-fact tone, and no one could refute him. A family can control an heir, but it can't restrain a ruler. Clearly, no one could stop him from marrying the person he liked. Grandpa Cooper's attitude just now had already been silent permission for Julian to cross the line. And besides, when you judged her again with that word, idiot, you already lost. To be precise, you lost again. Julian's voice stayed level and calm, yet it made people feel cold. With a half-smile, he looked down at Robert's humiliation, the oppressive force of someone in power radiating off him. Robert's pupils trembled. He looked at me, parted his lips, then couldn't say a word. "Due to personal reasons, Robert has given our opponents an opening and caused significant losses to the company. Effective immediately, his managerial position is revoked. He will be dispatched to Africa for training." Julian's lips curled lazily. He didn't spare Robert another glance. My thoughts were entirely tied to Julian. A beat later, I shook his hand. "Julian, you're his uncle?" "By blood, yes." Julian's icy expression softened in an instant. When he looked at me, there was laughter in his eyes. Then before. My brain wasn't quite working. I frowned, bewildered. "I lived abroad before, so you never met me." "None of that matters. Evelyn, just remember this, Julian will never leave Evelyn. Okay?" These days with him had made me rely on him fiercely, trust him without conditions. Mom used to say, "You only need to know who truly treats you well." I thought. I knew. "It's late and I prefer quiet. I'll take my leave." Julian gave everyone a polite nod and guided me upstairs with an arm around my waist. "I want to go back. There are still things I have to settle. Bear with it for one night, Evelyn. Tomorrow morning I'll take you home." Home. Home." Julian repeated it softly, his gaze tender and lingering. Late at night. Thunder detonated outside the window, and I jolted awake, struggling out of a nightmare. Rain came down in sheets. A drenched figure climbed in through the window. "Who's there?" I shrank back instinctively, my voice shaking. "It's me." Robert stumbled forward and dropped to his knees in front of me, eyes red as he choked on sobs. "Evelyn, don't stop wanting me. I was the one who didn't understand my own heart. Everyone laughed at me for having an idiot child bride. I felt ashamed, so I said those things I didn't mean. I have a bad temper, I'll change, I swear. Evelyn, can you forgive me?" I was about to stop him when the bedroom door flew open. Julian leaned against the frame, his gaze deep and dark. I didn't know President Cooper Jr. had a hobby of climbing walls in the middle of the night. He let out a cold laugh. Before Robert could react, Julian grabbed him, dragged him to the window, and tossed him out. Julian was always self-possessed. Seeing him lose control like this shocked me. It's only the first floor, Julian said flatly. He won't die. His eyes darkened, irritation rasped through his voice. What, do you feel sorry for him? Evelyn, don't like him. Julian closed in, his tone restrained, angry in a way that made my skin prickle. Possessiveness surging, he wrapped an arm around me from behind. His large, knuckled hand pinned my jaw, forcing my head back. His kiss fell, unexpectedly gentle. When his eyes met my helpless, startled look, the heat in them vanished in an instant. He lowered his head, annoyed with himself, his voice gone hoarse. Evelyn? I'm sorry. Just, my hand hurts. It definitely hurts more than he does after that fall. You should worry about me, too. I rubbed the faint scrape on the back of his hand, frowning in confusion. It really hurts, Julian murmured, pouting like a wronged, neglected big dog, obedient, pitiful. Blow on it, I said softly. If I blow on it, it won't hurt. I stopped hesitating. I cupped his hand, brought it close, and blew gently. Julian's lashes trembled. A barely there smile rippled in his eyes, like he'd gotten exactly what he wanted. Damn it, you manipulative little actor, Robert swore from outside, relentless, hauling himself back up to the windowsill with a bruised forehead. Julian clicked his tongue against his cheek and chuckled once. He strolled to the window, then suddenly drove his foot forward, hard, kicking Robert square in the chest. High praise, Julian said lazily. I only look good because my idiot rival is such an excellent foil. Ah! A dull thud came from below. I gasped on reflex. My eyes misted over. Julian turned back, looking for all the world like a young wife abandoned by a heartless husband, sulking in a muffled voice. Evelyn, you were worried about him again, weren't you? No. I shook my head frantically. Then. I mean, you did great. I smiled sweetly and looped my arms around his neck in a clingy hug. Only thieves climb walls at night. Robert definitely came to bully me again. Julian's Adam's apple bobbed. He lowered his eyes to my lips, and his gaze darkened. Evelyn, can I? Kissing, is that because you like someone? Mom told me kissing was a way to show love. When I was little, Mom always kissed my forehead. I thought, there shouldn't be much difference between those. Evelyn is so smart. Julian laughed softly and captured my lips. A tingling numbness spread through me. The air seemed to be seized and evaporated, thinning with every breath. My ears burned warm. My body went soft, and I whimpered under my breath. But Julian didn't hold back the way he had before. Instead, he cupped the back of my head and kissed me deeper. Possessive. Forceful. His eyes grew darker still, something wild and impatient crouched inside them. My heart kicked, sudden, unannounced, straight to the core. Heat crept uncontrollably up my neck. Confused and yearning, I lifted my hands to his shoulders. Evelyn, does it feel good? Julian pulled back abruptly, forehead pressed to mine. His voice was low and husky, like it carried a spell. Like withdrawal, the discomfort only intensified once he stopped. Like a kitten clawing at the tip of my heart, making it itch in the most maddening way. Julian teased my lips, near and far, licking lightly as he coaxed, kissing feels good. I reached for him instinctively, rising onto my toes and burrowing into his arms. Like? My body's instinct overrode my thoughts. I nodded obediently. Then let's go get registered, okay? Only after we're registered can we keep kissing like this. Registered? Registered. Tonight, Julian was unbelievably patient, guiding me step by step. What does registered mean? A shred of reason remained, wobbling, about to topple. It means we'll always be together, he murmured. And we can always kiss. You said yes. No taking it back. I'm good. I won't take it back. A sly glint flashed through Julian's deep eyes. Satisfied, he curved his lips. Our breaths tangled again. Heated, treasured, melting into each other. The next morning. Half asleep, I was carried into the car by Julian. Dazed, I stared at the little red booklet in my hands, still a bit blank. So, this is being registered? Julian's lips lifted without him noticing. The affection in his eyes was so thick it seemed to melt. Why can't the cover be pink? If Evelyn wants it, you'll have it. The secretary traveling with us silently pulled out a memo pad, custom make a pink marriage certificate cover for Mrs. Cooper. Sunlight filtered through lush old trees, scattering mottled light and shadow across the ground. The Julian who was ruthless and unsentimental in business went up the mountain temple one kneel at a time, one bow at a time, kneeling, rising, and kneeling again. Incense burned, filling the air with a calming, pleasant scent. Yellow walls, gray tiles, and red ribbons fluttered like butterflies about to take flight. Julian, what are you praying for? I asked softly, my voice gentle. It's husband, he corrected. Oh. Husband, what are you praying for? Repaying a vow. What vow? My vow, Julian said. It's called Evelyn. Julian was born into a family of merchants where deception and calculation were as natural as breathing. He believed in desire, wielded it like a weapon. He didn't believe in karma or retribution, only profit and loss. From beginning to end, he read people perfectly and never revealed what he liked or hated. A person, once they want something, has a weakness. But when Julian was 18, he met Evelyn. A small, soft little thing who tumbled straight into his arms. Soft. Sweet. Like a lost white rabbit. She landed on his heart and bred greed. For the first time, he tasted what it meant to lose control. Liking someone was unreasonable, yet it always left traces. He cursed himself for being a bastard, and still he couldn't stop thinking of her. The more he learned, the more he wanted to get close. At last, when she grew up, Julian decided to return for good, only to be in a car accident on the way to the airport. In his deep coma, Julian dreamed a bizarre, shimmering dream. He dreamed Evelyn walking toward him in a wedding dress, only to pass him by and slide a diamond ring onto another man's finger. The panic in his chest was so violent that he regained consciousness. When he woke, he ignored the doctor's warnings and flew back overnight. Luckily, he was still in time. He pressed his palms together and knelt with eyes closed. Because of Evelyn, Julian began to believe there could be reincarnation in this world. What he wanted from Evelyn was always too much, so much that it even included the next life. The fortune cylinder rattled. Curious, I rubbed the guanine lot that fell out. 13. 13, Julian said, smiling faintly, his gaze deep. Fate in love. A match. Our eyes met. I froze where I stood. This scene felt strangely familiar.